You are now listening to the sounds of Milkcrates Microphones.
We're joined now by a legendary LA Underground MC, someone that we've been a big fan for a long time, and we're very excited to have him on.
Hell yeah.
Everyone give it up for the one, the only, Gel Roc.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Peace, y'all.
Hey, how you doing? I love the mask. The king is here.
Yes, sir.
So let me start off by asking you real quick. Gel Roc. I had a lot of people ask me, is it Gel Roc or Gel Roc? It is Gel Roc because the man's name is Miguel. Is this correct or is this just word of mouth?
That is not my name.
Oh, I like that. Even better.
And you know, here's the crazy thing. One of the good homies that I've known for years, like extended crew, just told me that for the first time. I heard that for the first time, maybe 3 months ago. He swore my name was Miguel.
Everybody does.
But it could have been started. The rumor could have been started by me because I made the joke once online. I said something like, with Gel Roc with a hard G, like everybody's favorite cousin Miguel without the U, just Miguel. You know what I mean? And that might have started the rumor because, that's not my name.
The original Gel Roc. Hey, Gel Roc, how did you get your rap name?
Yeah.
It actually started with graffiti. Gel One. Just one of the homies and me were sitting around. And, once I got serious about graffiti, probably like 91, 92, that's the name I came up with. I wanted something quick. Gel, and I knew that, in the graffiti universe, there's like two of everybody, right? Like three of everybody. Yeah. So I was like, there will never be a Gel. Yeah. There might be a Gel in fucking New York or Europe or some shit, but there will never be a Gel One ever. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that was like my distinguishing factor, how I pronounced it. And then, I did a bunch of tapes as Gel One, a couple of CDs, and then once the hip hop thing really took off, Gel Roc as the hip hop identity kind of took over.
Nice. You talk a little bit about the graffiti background, and obviously we don't want to get too deep into that, but that's an art form that is that's still around today, but in that 90s, the early 90s, mid 90s in LA, especially in LA, it was such a progressive piece of hip hop in general, and the styling of the LA was so unique. Talk a little bit about that scene, how you got into it, and obviously we don't want to get too deep because we don't want to incriminate you in any way, but it's a big part of the hip hop culture.
It was just part of the culture like everything else. You know what I'm saying? Skateboarding was a part of the culture. Before that, breakdancing and pop locking, and not to say that any of that, faded out, obviously, but I went through my personal phases in different circles as I moved around. When I got to high school, I just got down with the Vandals, you know what I'm saying? Like that was the crowd that I gravitated toward, that accepted me, and that's the route that I ended up going. But went to school in La Mirada and Whittier, and that's where a bunch of my life seen differently crew members are from, and that's where the crew originated back in '89. And then all heavyweights, all real true school graph heads, you know what I'm saying, from really based in that area, but from LA and Hollywood, like y'all know Exist Stereo, he's one of the OG heads too from the crew. So he kind of brought, he was from CBS back then and also was one of the founders of LSD too. So, we just had a bunch of roots everywhere kind of, but home base really in Whittier.
Was that your introduction into music? Was hooking up with dudes like that, like Exit Stereo and AWOL, obviously?
Me and AWOL knew each other from graffiti first, and I always freestyled and shit. And a lot of people knew me for freestyling. You know what I'm saying? Before we started recording and things started to take off, and we kind of recognized that there was a movement to be had.
For sure.
And so eventually homies were like, yo, AWOL, he records and shit. And I was like, nah, I didn't know that. And so everybody eventually linked us, and then we started recording, man. And then like I think the first thing that I ever recorded with him came out on a tape. So it just kind of took off from there. And you know, I recognized early on that there was something special brewing. You know what I mean? I could just tell by the characters and the personalities that just had me drawn, and just everybody. And I already knew from the graffiti world the personalities. I already had a reputation on that side of things. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a bigger cultural thing, and the scene was pretty large at that time. You know, but on the underground, right? Like the music was underground, even the graffiti was underground at that time. You know, you didn't have a bunch of online profiles flexing all their shit. Yeah. You know, it was like you had to have a street rep. So that definitely came first, and that was sort of the school of hard knocks to like really pay your dues and earn your rite of passage in the streets before you could do anything, which is very different from today. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Word of mouth is nothing nowadays. I feel like it's like if you got something cool to show, that gets around fast.
It's gonna be on Instagram or some shit. You know what I'm saying? But
I haven't heard of anything word of mouth in a long time. You know what I mean? Like just straight up, hey, have you seen this? Check this.
It kept everything in such a small community, and it was special when you found stuff. When you were able to find stuff outside of your community, find music outside of your community, or graffiti art outside of your. It was special to bring it in. Now it's like you see so much, it's oversaturated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo,
Too much of everything.
Too much of everything.
Before we get into more of your catalog and your brand new album, Lost Control, dude, I brought my girlfriend to watch you and the Cloaks and Micah 9, you know, perform that show recently in San Francisco, and dude, you just blew it off, blew it away. I mean, my girlfriend was just her mouth wide open, eyes wide open. Gel Roc killed it. I mean, you were the one that stood out the most to us. How do you practice for a live show? Has that always been in your genes, in your blood, or do you put a lot of practice and effort into preparing for a show?
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you, man. Appreciate you guys coming out and you know, just the impression that was made.
You threw it down, man.
Bringing that up. You know, I think for me, I don't really rehearse performing. I just try to practice learning my raps. Because that's the most important thing for me. You know, I just listen to stuff over and over and just try to commit things to memory, because I do so much music. It's hard to, you know, to get everything down. And then when you hit the road, you're coming up with different sets and trying to make sure you have the right set. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes the ones you think are going to be the ones that are the ones you want to perform are not the ones that, you know, they don't hit the same in a live show, right? So doing all the calculated shit is cool. I tend to do a little bit more of the calculated stuff with the Cloaks, because I write a little differently for that, you know, for that group with AWOL One. But in terms of like solo stuff, you know, I'm a little more focused on my songwriting and my hooks. So I just try to mix it up. And the solo set that I did that night was really kind of based around that. And then I knew that the Cloak shit would get into the more calculated double time and stuff. But in terms of like, you know, stage presence and performance and all that, that's just sort of a natural thing. I don't practice that. I don't fucking, you know, I much respect it to the artists that do practice, right? And do rehearse their performances. That's awesome. I have, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying we don't, but for my solo stuff, I'm not gonna jump around in the fucking, you know, in the studio for myself. So I just commit shit to memory and then just rock. I like to feel live, you know what I'm saying, when I rock. I don't necessarily want things to sound like the album. I want you to get an experience where you feel like you've heard the album and it sounds dope live, but it's a different energy. You get a live energy and sort of that special, you know, special moment type shit, you know?
Yeah,
you're chasing the vibe.
It's unique.
You're legitimately chasing the vibe where you're with the people.
I think that makes great sense too. The fact that you just commit to remembering or memorizing your raps to the point where you're comfortable enough where you're not thinking about your next lyric. That shit's just gonna come natural. That way you could do all the other shit, the fan interaction and move around.
Entertaining.
That makes it easier to do that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm a little more of like you know, in the live shows, I like to get a little more punk. You know what I'm saying? I like it to feel like not every show is the same.
Organic.
You know what I mean? Like I want everybody to feel like they got something unique when they came. So
it was very intimate, man, and no disrespect to Micah 9, one of my favorite artists of all time, favorite freestyles of all time, but that was a Cloaks show. You guys put on one hell of a show, one hell of a set. I mean, you're a fellow Project Blowedian yourself. When did you first cross paths with Project Blowed, and did you see them perform at the Good Life back in the day, in the earlier days?
Yeah. I went to the Good Life a couple times towards the end before it transitioned to the Blowed, and I was going to the Blowed pretty early on. I want to say like 95, 90, well, maybe 95, 96. I don't remember that far back too much, but man, I just, you know, we were just active. E2, my original crew, we were just active, man. We were going to open mics everywhere, you know what I'm saying? And being down with, you know, like Ab and Fat Jack from Mass Men and AWOL always hanging out at the studio, and just, you know, it was just natural, organic, you know, paying dues and being down with everyone.
Yeah, it's a big area, LA in general, but the LA underground scene is a small community, so it makes sense that you guys would all hook up. You know, it's especially with your guys' styles being so stylistically on the same page. You know.
Yeah, for sure, man.
What's it like being involved in a Project Blowed cipher with, you know, like 50 other artists, man? I mean, how does that work out? Does it feel like it's all over the place, or you kind of each find your own
is it
space
organized
spot?
Yeah, well, we've gotten a lot more organized, especially with the Blowed anniversary shows. Yeah. We've started to get these ciphers down a little more, but we knew that Rhyme Fest, it was a 30-year anniversary, 30 MC, Project Blowed All-Star Cypher that was led by Beyond and AC Alone and Abstract Rude. So each head had 10 heads to choose from. So it was like a draft, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they did their thing, and then we all rehearsed. We all made sure that we were Trump tight on stage. But to answer the question about what it was like, Rhyme Fest was unique because we went up there 30 heads. You know what I'm saying? And it just felt like it was legendary for sure. From the outset, I think Cholo Cinco was the first person to rap to set it all off, and I was the last person to rap before Fellowship. Wow. So he came in heavy hitting, and I had to sit there and watch everybody fucking kill it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we were on stage, and the sound system was amazing, and it was just like our ears were rattling, and it just couldn't have been more perfect. Everybody was just crushing it. So, you know what I mean? It was just like one of those things where I was just sitting in the waiting and on deck, man. And it was like, I don't get nervous. I've been doing this too long, but, you know, it was like, you just seen the progression, the crescendo of heat just continuing to elevate. And I was like, man, I better not fuck anything up on this shit. You know what I'm saying? So,
it's a tough
and then
spot.
we did our thing. It was dope, man. It was a good time. Everybody was, it brought everybody together. That was the best thing I think about the Rhyme Fest cypher. We all were communicating ahead of the show and then after the show, and we still have a thread that's going right now. But it was dope to see everybody just really come together and be proud to rep, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's like a Royal Rumble.
Seriously,
you got the 30th entrance in the Royal Rumble. You had to sit and wait for everybody.
Oh.
Yeah, man, that's a lot to you just can't take that shit for granted. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. Let's talk a little bit about this new album, the Lost Control album.
Buttons, Fades, and Memoirs.
Man, it's a great album. You said a little bit ago about how you like to bring that punk feeling to the stage. You definitely brought a little bit of punk feeling to the album. And throughout your catalog, you always have a little bit of that taste. Is that something that you were a fan of growing up, especially being in LA? That kind of garage punk scene was a big deal down there.
I think it's really more of an underground thing. Like punk and hip hop in my mind are like cousins, you know what I'm saying?
Fuck yeah.
Like in terms of the scenes. And this record definitely had a bigger range, a broader range of production with Zax. And he uses a lot of live instruments. There's live bass. We have vocalists on this record. So I was really trying to make, it's a double vinyl gatefold record. Amazing artwork by Brain A. D Styles from Invisible Scratch Pickle, the Beat Junkies, does all the cuts. Paris Zax on all the production. It features Leanie Pearls, Rain Basso, Ariano on vocals, and then guest verses by AWOL and Micah 9 from Freestyle Fellowship. That was like the last song on the album that I added. The album was essentially done, but in January, once I knew we were going to do the tour, I was like, I got to put them on it. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no way I'm going to play this album for them on the road and not have them on it.
Yeah, 21 songs is long.
22.
Yeah, 22. Yeah. That's amazing.
Outro,
you don't get that at all anymore. Any type of artist out there, they're not even giving you more than 12.
So that was intentional, man. Like when I started writing it, I told Paris, I'm like, we should try to do songs that are like 2 minutes, and try to do an album that's like 30 minutes because the attention span. And then we did the first 2 songs, and they were both like, his production's so broad, and it's insane.
It's insane.
You can't contain him for 2 minutes. It's like he has a minute and a half intro here and there. It's just like, it's too big.
He's so good,
so we joked after the first 2 songs. We're like, I told him out the gate, I was like, okay, we're gonna make this a double vinyl gatefold because I just came off a Cloak Rework Orange, which was a double vinyl gatefold, and it was amazing in terms of just the product and how it looked. And I hadn't done that in my solo career, so I was like, I'm gonna write this record to be a double vinyl gatefold and have broad enough range where it creates an experience for the listener. It also comes with like a full picture zine and lyric book with photos by my homie Matt Mendoza. So, I think we accomplished something special with this record. We made it so you can sit down and listen to it and read the lyrics, you know what I'm saying? Like put it on the turntable and do that. But yeah, it's also on all digital platforms as well. So
it's definitely unique to the time, to this time where we're getting 2-minute songs and 10-minute EPs. This is definitely unique to the time.
Low attention spans are out now. That being said, you got 22 tracks. Was it hard to cut it down to 22, or did you have more that you probably just left on the chopping room floor that you're just like, I don't think that's going to make the cut?
No, we used them all. I don't really do that a lot. I don't really if I don't like to waste time, you know what I'm saying? I don't like to be in the studio and like record something. If it's whack, I'm not going to save the session. But my reality is I put out pretty much everything that I record. I mean, there's stuff that's not out because it's just not out yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I feel pretty content with what I do.
I love that. I like that.
Dude, when you're working with Paris Zax and you guys were creating this album in particular, I mean, what is that creative process like? Is he creating a bunch of beats first and sending them to you and then you're writing to those, or are you guys kind of collaborating together at the same time and creating a song together?
A little bit of both. He would send me ideas. I would give him input. And then the crazy thing about Paris is I would do the song, and I'm the type of person that, like, when I record to a song, I get really married to where the samples drop and everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I hit the pocket very intentionally.
Perfectly too. Perfectly
right.
placed.
And then Paris, he's unique because he would then send me like 6 versions of one song, and I'd be like, dude, all of these are amazing, but I need you to bring it back to the original. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, we could release a whole nother record with these alternate versions, but he was giving me like decision fatigue. Like right out the gate, I was like, dude, they're all amazing. I can't entertain listening to 6 versions of 21 songs. I just need you to dial it back to the original. And you know what I mean? Let D Styles do his thing, and you know what I mean? And then it'll come together. But he's amazing like that. Paris is amazing like that.
Dude, and the flow of the album is so well put together too, just from one song to the next. I mean, it meshes really well. I mean, the album kicks off with Lean In, goes into Tell the Tape. Did you create each track and mean for it to be like, this is track 1, this is track 2, or do you kind of mix and play with that at the end?
Toward the end, when it gets, like, as soon as I knew all the tracks we were gonna use, or you know, that were made up the album, toward the end of every record, I start doing the track listing. So it's very intentional. There's very, you know, I just try to listen to it like a listener. You know what I mean? And every record that I've been involved with, I've pretty much taken the lead for like 95% of the records to do the track listing. curation of the artwork for the most part. And the Cloaks AWOL's involved a lot more, but for the most part, even my other groups, yeah, man, the track listing is like my favorite part for every record. So yeah, that we don't record them in the order. We just make all the songs, and then I figure out how I want to tell the story. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate you calling that out, because again, it goes back to creating an experience the way that I grew up listening to records. Sitting and listening to my mom's records, and just tripping off all the artwork, and just that whole thing is what I wanted to bring back, that vibe, in the face of this short attention span, culture.
The artwork is amazing on the album. Where did that concept come from? Of the this kind of like a, I don't know, like a skull wearing like some type of headdress, old school type of like tapestry,
cloak,
kind of like exploded.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the homie Brain A did it, and I gave him the record and gave him like ideas on how to, kind of the direction. So yeah, he did his thing, man. He killed it.
Hell yeah, he did.
Yeah, it's an amazing gatefold that he did, and he even has artwork in in the zine. So yeah, he killed it, and the album sort of has like that punk psychedelic rock element, but you can also hear hip hop, jazz, and all that vibe in there as well. So I curated the record recognizing that there was going to be a side A and a side B and a side C and a side D, so that there was a vibe for each side of the record.
Yeah. You could definitely tell that the record has a lot of variety to it, and that you spent a lot of time going into depth of that. And what's awesome about that artwork is that you're putting out hard copies and putting out vinyl. Is that something that you obviously plan on doing before you put out the record? Because it's not a cheap process to be able to put all that hard stuff out, and a lot of people are just doing digital nowadays. Is that something that you plan on to continue doing, and something that you do consciously?
Yeah, for sure, man. I come from the school of listening to records and making records. You know what I mean? It's
For
like
sure.
I didn't start. We were doing this on tapes. You know what I'm saying? And the days of trading tapes and dubbing and trading mixes and of underground shit. So yeah, I really just didn't come up in this game of the digital, and I'm not a big fan of digital like media too much. I understand it brings accessibility to the music. That's important to me, right? Because I am independent artist, and so I get it. It's just part of the music scene. It is what it is. You got to adapt to change, but at the same time, I anchor my game in what I do with physicals. So yeah, I don't see that changing unless records don't get purchased.
Yeah.
But,
we love having that feeling of having it in your hand and being able to see it, and like seeing the artwork digitally is cool, but being able to have it and look it and dissect it in front of you, it's different. It's a totally different vibe.
It's amazing. Takes me back.
I mean, what are you gonna do with digitals if you go on tour? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like I just don't understand. And like I've been to some big artists shows where their merch game is super tight, and then I'm like blown away by how whack their merch game is. And it's like, I'm a fan, I'm there, you know what I mean? But like you don't have records, or what I mean, just whatever. So like that's just not the type of artist that I care to be. I want to make things that you can collect. I'm a collector myself, so
Nowadays, do other artists look down upon that when they get hard copies of things pressed? Are they looking at it as like a risk, as like a money gamble? Is that why a lot of artists stop doing that nowadays? You feel like?
I'm sure other people go through all those thought processes. I know that people have asked me, back in the day when I was making records, like, oh, how does it work, this, that, and the other. I still get those questions, but everybody's in a different position. You know what I'm saying? Some people are fortunate enough to make records. AWOL Records is my label. We've been doing records since '96, and yeah, man, it just, you work for what you want in life, you know what I mean?
Fuck yeah.
And this is what I do. So
Oh yeah, as a fan, we like I love going to a show and being able to go to a merch table, especially being an underground fan and being able to go see these independent artists actually working their merch table and selling shit hand to hand and shaking hands, having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
That makes the experience that much more unique, and there's more of a connection there with the people.
which is why I, you know, for me, it's important to give that live show like that. You know what I mean? To give that energy,
Yeah.
And help sell the merch, right? Like it's you know, throughout the tour, and I always say it, you know, Abstract Rude from my crew, Mass Men, you know, he said on one of his records, you know, many years ago, it only takes 2 or 3 to have a little bit of church, and I use that. I told him I say that shit all the time at the shows. You know, and so we're trying to create something special, you know what I'm saying? The Cloaks are fucking making a little seance for the audience, you know what I'm saying? And like, you know, to be able to have merch and, you know, just create. We're creators, man. You know what I mean? Like real creator, not like fucking digital creators and shit, but like, you know, we do that too, but that just is part of the game.
Yeah, something that stuck with me is somebody said that, like, as an artist like yourself, you have so many interactions with fans that sometimes you might forget individual interactions, but those fans will never forget that interaction that they had with you. They go home with that forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all try to be mindful of that, especially just because we're thankful, man, to have fans come out and support like that. So I don't take fans for granted. I don't take engagement for granted. You know, that's why we do it. You know, I'm not some crazy viral sensation, which, you know, I'm thankful for, because that comes with the headache as well. You know what I'm saying? So every interaction's important, man. This is how I treat everybody. You know, you could be walking down the street, a perfect stranger. I'm going to give you, you know, positive energy, because, you know, that's the right way to conduct yourself in my mind.
Yeah, you're a good,
respectful,
a really nice and kind man, I will say. Left a great impression on my lady. Going back to the art of storytelling, I mean, it really stuck out for me in tracks like Fades and Married Divorce. When you're writing a track that's involving storytelling, is that usually coming from a real life experience, or what is that process like for you?
Yeah, I would say that probably 85% of it is based in reality, to some degree, inspired by, you know, real shit. And then, you know, as an artist, I also recognize my audience for topics that I think are important topics that, you know, I will embellish on to just tell a story. Because at the end of the day, in my mind, you know, embellishment is a very important thing in life. You know what I mean? Like, if you have homies that tell good stories, they're embellishing about the story. I mean, it's probably a lot drier, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, whether you're making your resume, dude, you're fucking embellishing on your resume. You know what I'm saying? It's like people are online embellishing about their lives and their artistry. It's like, the reality is that's a lot of it. And if you're trying to be a good artist and you curate your art, your music in a way that is compelling, that's everything. For sure. You know?
Yeah. One of my favorite wrestlers, Conan, from back in the day, he likes to say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Well, I mean, that's a perfect example, is wrestling in itself. We all came up watching wrestling, and that shit's, you know, it's all
storytelling, embellished.
Yeah, it's you know, exactly. And we're all, you know, movies, everything's a story, man. Like, you know, you're watching whatever documentary, or the Menendez brothers, like, they're going to tell a story. You know, the Lakers documentary, you know, then the players come out and they're like, oh, that's not accurate, but, you know, they gotta embellish and tell a good story.
Yeah, got to get the audience engaged. Got to get the audience engagement.
There it is, man.
Blood in the Streets is a standout track for me and one of my favorites off the album. Was that written about someone in particular that you know, or just the LA scene in general?
Yeah,
so much death going on in the street?
That's a good joint to call out. That was more so, what I would say is that's more like my observations on society. It's more a reflection of guns being a problem and gun violence. So that's not about anybody. That's just more about society and where we're at with guns and gang violence, sort of all of it, you know. But I do write, and in that specific song, you know, that's an important topic. But I wrote in a manner that was open for interpretation. You know, I as a writer, I'm very mindful of the listener, and telling these stories in a way that recognizes that, you know, it's got to be open for interpretation, but again, it has to be compelling to feel real enough.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, that one hit.
So that song is not about anybody.
Yeah, that one hit hard and at home for me, and just makes you think and, like you said, interpret what you're saying in your own perspective. Just delving a little further into that, how do you think the city of LA has changed in regards to, you know, this gun violence and just killing?
Well, you're originally, were you born in Whittier or you're from Whittier?
Pretty much grew up in that area, man.
What's the vibe like that compared to LA in Whittier? Is it kind of the same kind of gang violence and stuff like that?
Whittier is a, you know, so to answer the first question, it's kind of like, you know, I think it's calmed down a lot. You know what I mean? It's like, there's cameras everywhere. Gang violence isn't what it was. You can, you know, wear colors that you couldn't wear before and all that type of shit. You know what I mean? It was a lot worse in the 90s. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like it was, but you can't take shit for granted either. You're in a hot spot, you're in a hot spot. And if you're trying to pop off, you'll get caught. You know what I mean? For sure. You'll get got like that. So, and as for Whittier, you know, Whittier is a unique city. It's got a lot of acclaim. You know, you've heard like perhaps Pigeon John talk about it, or, you know, Ab and AWOL. I mean, AWOL's from Whittier, but Ab recognizes that Whittier, from a graffiti standpoint, because again, life's seen differently. My graffiti crew, that's where we're from. You know, we're part of the greater Los Angeles, you know, street scene when it comes to graffiti since back in the day. And so Whittier has always been an established city, especially because Whittier Boulevard is such a historic street. If you're in Los Angeles, you don't know about Whittier Boulevard or cruising Whittier Boulevard, you know, low riding and all that scene. So Whittier has that established identity. And some people don't know, but Whittier is actually the last name of a famous poet. So there's a artistic element to the city.
Yeah. And you are yourself damn well a poet. I mean, were you always writing growing up, or was that something later on in life that you kind of delved into?
I started writing when I started recording. I mean, I take it back. I mean, I remember when I was young, I would always write raps as well, but I just didn't think it would evolve into anything. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think I'd be recording and doing this way back when I was doing my first name, last initial type raps. You know what I'm saying? Like just in the 80s, it was like, you know, whatever, right? Like, but once I started recording and writing songs, you know, I will say prior to that, like, I've always been pretty verbose, you know, like, I don't know what it is. I'm not you know, I read, but I don't read a lot. I can't say that that's where it comes from. On my dad's side, there's all my uncles, they're like super intellects, man, you know, so I just think I got good genes, man. I don't know how to explain it. You know, I'm not like super collegial. I didn't go to college or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? So just sort of innate, man. I just have an affinity for words, man. And like you know, I used to talk back to my mom. She'd be like, "Stop using those big words." I'm like, this is just how I talk. I'm not even talking back. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what word to use here. This is whatever.
So with your craft now, and that you're an older man now, I don't know if you have any children, but are you passing the torch on, you know, without you willfully knowing it, to your next of kin? Are you trying to willfully pass that on to them to be like, hey, you can go this avenue with your life, with the music scenes?
Dude, I have two kids. They're my daughter turned 21 yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Wild.
Congratulations.
Yeah, actually, Thursday.
Congrats.
They, dude, I'm like, all I do is spit gems for those kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, they get tired of hearing me, man. I'm like, they already know everything. It's just, and like I tell them, I'm like, it doesn't matter what you know. It's all that matters what you do. So it doesn't matter if I've said it 60 times, still not doing the dishes. You know what I'm saying? It's like, whatever it is, right? Like, you can know right from wrong, but if all you do is wrong, it doesn't matter what you know. So that's sort of the impetus of the album I did, Beautiful Tragedy. Life is beautiful, but it's tragic because it's all in our hands. You know what I mean? It's all free will. It's and that's an important thing. So long answer, but yeah, man, I don't try to push artistry on them. I do enough where it's in their circumference. You know what I mean? Like, they're both artistic. My son is an amazing artist who probably doesn't draw enough because he's a gamer, you know what I'm saying? And he plays the guitar. He's super dope. Doesn't play it enough because he's a gamer, but also he's still pretty young and he's trying to figure out, what he wants to do in his life. And my daughter's like super creative and crafty, in their own ways. They're their own individuals. I don't push anything on them too much, you know what I'm saying? And just try to give them good direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm a father of 2 daughters, and they're younger. They're 8 and 5, but to be able to get them to 21, that's an amazing accomplishment too.
Yeah, man. Thankful every day, man.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
awesome.
That's
As you've grown in your style of writing and you've evolved, has the process changed at all? Like, do you start top to bottom, kind of just start at the top and start writing, or do you come in with bars, a couple punchlines here and there, and kind of work around that?
No rules, man.
Nah,
there are no rules. I am all over the place, inspired by things randomly. I can write in the middle of the night. I can write on a napkin. I can write from top to bottom. Freestyle. I do a lot of freestyle stuff that people don't know, and I don't tell them it's freestyle because I don't want anybody to form an opinion. And then when I hear them react to songs, it's like they don't even know, or it's like, because if you tell somebody that, they're like, they have a different perspective. You know?
Right. Yeah.
So it's all over, man. It just, I write and record so much, man, that it's just, I'm all over the place. I will, like I said, it just depends on what project I'm working on. And, I come from an era of, when we were doing music in the 90s, there's a lot of pressure, man. You'd be in the studio with Peace and Supernet, and I'm freestyling with those guys. Like, the young, it's like crazy, right? And like, you have to be prepared to write and record on the spot.
Top tier.
It like almost everything we did, we were in a studio writing and recording on the spot. Wow. So you got to have like heavy ability to think quickly and be dope enough to, be on the track and make the cut. So now it's much different because, you got years of experience of recording and records and home studios now. I'm not a kid staying out all night in some garage studio. I'm sitting in my own studio, and you can create a little differently. It's like I can freestyle without worrying about like what everybody else is thinking. You know what I mean? So it's just taken on a different form, but yeah, man, it's so yeah. Writing has changed in that capacity or in that regard, because before you had to do mostly everything on the spot. Yeah.
I enjoy hearing that, because in a creative space like that, you don't ever want to box yourself into one lane. You want to kind of stay open.
Yeah. And freestyling,
right.
Track too.
That's the exact reason why I have different groups, so I could have freedom to have different approaches. You know what I mean? Like, Lost Control has more personal stuff on it. You know what I mean? It's not going to show up on the Cloaks so much, right?
Sure.
So
even with this new album just coming out on the 4th, are you still working on something else that's coming out that we just, you just don't stop? Are you constantly creating, or do you take time off when the album drops?
Constantly creating.
Hell yeah.
Like, it's like it's kind of, I said on the Mass Elements record that I did, grind so hard we don't have to grind. Like, I don't have to record. I don't have to write. I have so much shit in the chamber. You know what I mean? I think the only time things get a little frustrating for me is like when I have so much material. It's like, it's like I gotta wait. I gotta campaign this record, right? Yeah. I gotta like push this record it's so deep. I have to push it for like 6 months. Yeah. And I already have a record behind this one. I already have a record behind that one. I have the next Cloaks record that's 50% recorded. I have the next Exalt the Anti with Meg Abusive and D-Ski that's already in the chamber and sort of needs to be mastered and refined. It's like there's a lot of those projects in the chamber. And in the meantime, I'm doing features and all of that, man. So
is that hard when you have like music that you're like, God damn, this is good shit right here. I need somebody to hear this. I need people to hear this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's hard. It's just sort of the norm, man. I mean, this is just my life at this point. It's sort of been the same thing for a long time, you know?
Yeah.
It's at this point, it's just second nature, man. I don't overthink anything, really.
Yo, Concentrated Orchestration is another one of my favorite tracks off the album. Super dope. Great little build up from Zax and these styles, and then you just come in spitting bars straight, no chorus for about 2 minutes straight. Dude, did that just happen naturally, or did you want the track to sound like that when you were thinking about it?
That was the first one I was able to just spit on without any. There was no, it wasn't a structured song.
Yeah.
It wasn't your conventional lean in single, right? It wasn't your conventional, whatever, Blood in the Streets, right? It was just like a hypnotic track by Paris. Mm-hmm. And I caught a stream of consciousness and I rode the wave and I just let the beat take me and kind of just fell into a zone and let it go, man. That's
so good. It's so good. And I'm not even gonna ask if that's a freestyle or not, but
it's not a freestyle, but I'm glad you guys called that out. I've been doing some different interviews and it's great to hear the different songs that people, pull out of the record. Mm-hmm. I would say that when we did the record, to me, that was not my favorite. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It was like, this is that to me was easy. It was bar work.
Yeah.
Bar work is easy. Every rapper can have bar work. Anybody could rap, but can you make a record and write songs?
Right. Yeah.
So the rest of the record was what was dynamic. To me, that was just like, oh, let me get off on this because I got to give them this too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But and I made this record, like I said, with intention of having range and working with vocalists and live instrumentation and even flexing my vocals where you get some, a little bit of singing and some of the, so there's some dynamic that I'm getting to and achieving that I haven't done on previous records. I have bars on all my records. That's easy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that one almost didn't make the cut. Put it that way.
Oh, wow.
But on the other hand, I'm very happy to hear. But I kind of knew people are gonna like this because this is what they know me for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It feels like that. Like you said, the bar work would be easier than like having to write a storytelling track, or like you said, doing something out of your element, like ranging your vocals and getting into like a singing process. The bar work seems like something that's natural to you.
And he's right. That's what we want, though. We want him to cut loose like that on that album.
And it keeps the album diverse.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of different tracks on there. I mean, Heavy the Crown gets a little emotional. You start, feeling it in your heart a little bit. But then a track like that, I mean, you're just spitting hard. And it
smack in the face. Yeah, wake you up.
Keeps it very diverse. Going into Came to Crush.
Yeah, Came to Crush is hard as fuck.
You rap for 3 generations that represent the element. And is that in regards to the musical realm within your family for 3 generations, or exactly what?
I kind of was just talking about 3 decades, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
got it.
Just being down with music, and graffiti, and the culture itself.
It's a long time, bro.
But generationally, I mean, music's a big deal in my family. I mean, I've had, just a lot of influence from that perspective too. So it's all applicable.
Was this your was this your first time working with Zax, or how long have you guys worked together? Because you guys just so well, and then these styles on top of that mixed in.
Hit the ground running for sure.
Man, so awesome.
Yeah, so I've known Paris for a very long time. I used to freestyle over his beats at his house, and then we he's more like he's a reclusive individual, So I tapped him to do a couple remixes for a Cloak Rework Orange, that album.
Yeah,
and he
super dope.
He had some amazing shit. And he's kind of been missing in action for a couple of years, and that drew me to him. It was just like, because I knew how dope he was, and I was just like, dude, why are you that rare baseball card producer that nobody hears from and is just not, he's an introvert, right? So I was just like, nah, he's got something here, and I wanna dig in, and so we known each other for a long ass time. mutual respect, and it was just time. You know what I mean? That was sort of the reason why I decided to get down with him. And then he was just kind of blown away by how fast I was working. I mean, I wrote that whole record and recorded it from like beginning of March of last year and finished it in like November. And then I was waiting for mastering and all that, and I wasn't gonna have any rappers on it, just vocalists. And then once the tour, like I said, got booked, I was like, I gotta add AWOL and Micah just to have, you know, a couple rap verses on it.
I hope it's not your guys' last album together, because I mean, you guys just work so well together, and the production's off the charts mixed with your rap skills on top of that, just super dope. Yeah, I mean, super awesome, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I think you know, I did carve out some other beats from him and had intentions of you know, I'm sure we're going to continue to work together because we recognize this album has got a special, you know, sound, and we feel amazing about it. Like we love the record. We love the record. We know we made something special because we've been making records for forever. You know what I mean? And just we set out to do something and we executed it, you know, flawlessly in our own opinion, humbly. And so yeah, man, it's like it's very rare that I've worked with the producer from a solo perspective and haven't followed up. I usually have to follow up with anybody that I can. You know what I mean? So there's a little top secret nugget I just gave out. So if there's not a sequel out with a producer I've worked with before, there might be one in the chamber.
There's gonna be a part two.
The sound and the on the record, you could tell you enjoyed working together, and that's something in creative stuff I always talk about. Like, it's for the fans, it's nice to be able to listen to something or watch something and say, oh yeah, they're having fun doing that. You could tell they're having fun doing that, and that definitely comes out in the sound of that record.
Yeah, man. We're like I said, we're really stoked about it. So
I'm a huge fan of scratching in general, and you know, I feel like it's kind of becoming a dying art, and I don't want it to be. But having these styles mixed in, I mean, just really makes each track more special. When did you first meet D Styles and start working with him?
The first time I worked with him was 2001 on a side B 12-inch. For AWOL's Sold Out album.
Classic.
You know, produced by Daddy Kev, and I think D-Style did all the cuts on that record too.
Yeah.
So that was over 20 years ago, man. And
it's amazing.
I mean, I've always been a fan of the Invisible Scratch Pickles, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, I've always had DJs on all my records, so you know, turntablism is a big thing for me too. So, and he's a Cloak too, man.
Yeah.
D-Style's been on all the Cloaks records as well.
Yeah, he's so talented. Going into the Cloaks a little bit, I mean, I'm sure you already know this, but the Cloaks debut album just turned a decade in March, so that's super awesome. 10 years, I mean, the Cloaks is one of my favorite duos, trios, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
How is this album different with the creative process compared to making a Cloaks album with AWOL and D Styles?
I mean, it's just different because it's a solo versus a group effort. You know, it's like when it's a group effort, you have to be more collaborative. You have to kick ideas around. Even though me and AWOL, we, you know, he's one of my best friends. So like, you know, we are very similar in our workflow. You know what I mean? Like we don't get stuck on things, right? Like, you know, if he's like, I got a hook idea, I'm like, cool, let's run it. You know what I mean? Or if I got a hook idea, or we just kind of always moving forward.
Yeah.
So but it's different just because I have to be mindful of what I'm talking about, right? Like he's gonna get personal in his solo records, and you know, like he has a new record out, and if you listen to that record, there's some personal references in there that probably aren't gonna make it on the Cloaks record because it's just not the appropriate time or setting in that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's just the primary difference, is just, you know, solo mindset versus group mindset. Topics are gonna be a little different. Other than that, the workflow is pretty much the same.
Yeah. Do you enjoy that process of being in a group setting and having somebody kind of elevate you and push you a little harder?
Oh, yeah, man, for sure. That's why I have so many groups. You know what I mean? You know, shout out to Exalt the Anti. We're excited about that record dropping next year. And yeah, it's fun, man. I'm a crew guy. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't grow up with my sisters and brothers for the first part of my life, so my crew is my family. So I've always been a very crew-oriented individual. It was more in my early recording days that I found it to be more challenging to establish myself as a solo artist.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, it was like I was so active with crew, and it was like, I was grinding, and people were like naturally nudging me like, what's up with the solo record? You know what I mean? So I was like, I knew I had to go there, but it wasn't a natural thing for me at first. And then once I dropped my first solo record, then it just became a natural thing, because I just knew that my ambitions were greater than waiting around for my friends. You know what I mean?
For sure. We are happy that you did venture off into the solo stuff, because it's nice to have both sides be able to go back and forth and listen to the solo stuff and also get a little bit of the group stuff, and it's very enjoyable. And you talking about 3 decades, 30 years.
It's amazing.
Does it feel like it's been 30 years? Because I know as I'm getting older, it's like time flies so fast that it just everything's so fast. Does it feel like it's been 30 years that you've been creating and producing hip hop content?
Some days it is. Some days it feels like that. You know what I mean? Probably when I look in the mirror and I'm going, damn, I'm getting old, and but from a creative standpoint, no, I feel very youthful, and that's the very cool thing about creation and creative process and being a creative is it keeps you young. You know what I mean? It's probably what I would attribute to being youthful and being young at heart, man. Like that's a good creative stays in a childlike state. You know what I mean? Because you're a dreamer, and that's when you're able to dream. As you get older, worldly responsibilities kind of dim that. You know what I mean? Like, I know plenty of super talented creative friends of mine that don't create anymore, and it's very disheartening to me, because I know how talented they are, but they have a lot of kids and they have a lot of bills and so on and so forth. So the real world has a way of wearing down an artist, and so that's where I try to stay. I always try to stay young at heart through my creative ventures.
Can you pinpoint anything in your life that has kept you kind of pushing and motivated and to continue this longevity?
Yeah, how do you keep it going for so long and on point for so long?
It seems like you're not stopping either, obviously. You've got stuff in the chamber.
I think it's just constantly trying to improve and achieve new things. Like Lost Control, for me personally, is a very important record for me. You know what I mean? I set out to do certain things in how I wanted to have this record produced. And so there's always that challenge that I'm pushing myself to achieve something. I don't know if it will ever get boring. I mean, if I can't find a producer that isn't helping me open doors, creative doors to do new things, then it might get boring.
Yeah.
If I just stay doing bar work, that shit's boring. Rapping is boring to me if that's all it is. That's just linear. You know what I mean? It's just like, but having range and achieving different vibes and energies and growth is personal growth and creative growth. So I just think there's a lot to do, and that's why I look for different producers as well to try to open up different creative ideas and shit.
I think this album, if nothing else, is a great achievement, and the fact that you're 30 years in and doing something so different from the norm. So I think that is definitely applaudable, and it's an amazing album. I've enjoyed it, and listening to it over the last couple weeks has been really cool.
It sounds so fresh too. When I first put it on, it felt like something that I don't want to say I've already heard, but it sounds like something that will just slip right into my normal, usual listening attire, and it just feels like an album I can put on, and like I said, top to bottom, it's great.
You can work out to the album. You can work out to the album. You can cry to the album. I mean,
it's like high pace. It's high pace, and it's got all kinds of vibes to it. Yeah, it's got vibes. It's awesome.
I think it's probably one of my more relatable albums too. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be into underground hip hop or be a traditional Gel Roc fan. You could play it for your uncle or somebody, and there's something for everybody on that record. So.
It's very mindful for sure, definitely. Like it speaks to everybody, like you said, for sure.
That's the Serpent and the Rainbow track that you did years ago with Self Jupiter. Super classic track, man. It's even mentioned on this album on the Lost Control Radio track by the Peyote Cody. that track, I mean, that has to be in reference to the movie, correct? Are you a fan of that movie, or?
Yeah. That movie was definitely the influence at the time that we recorded that song.
Crazy movie, man.
Yeah, and we told a story, man. I remember when we released that song, we had like this ill description of the storytelling in that song by me and Jupiter. I mean, Jupiter is one of the best storytellers there is.
Yeah, and has his own unique style of doing it too.
Yeah. That's a very that's a classic joint right there, man.
For sure. Yeah. Dude, do you have a favorite horror movie of all time?
I mean, I don't know, man. I think I said this like in a recent interview, but like probably the first Nightmare on Elm Street, just because it was, the impression. It was just, that was fresh and unique. That was just like a whole nother genre.
Totally.
When that movie dropped. So yeah, that one probably stands out. That's like a milestone movie, man. Like it just changed the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Why we still have you before you depart? In just one sense in general, what does hip hop still mean to you to this day? You've been in it for what, 30? You said 30 plus years. I mean, does it mean more to you than it meant to you 15 years ago, or does it mean so much more to you now?
I would say that it's hip hop is it's my livelihood in one sense, because it helps me express whatever I'm going through, like especially the solo stuff. Like you hear how dense this record is. If all of that was bottled up, I would probably be a wreck.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's very much a big part of my livelihood, to be able to just write song, and it's a blessing to be able to do that. It's a privilege to be able to connect with people and be able to get this stuff out of me and onto a record, man. So yeah, music is everything to me, man.
Yeah,
man.
Well, we've really enjoyed this album and really enjoyed this conversation, and man, it's been really good to catch up with you. If you guys haven't heard the album, go check it out now. Lost Control.
Don't walk, run.
Yeah, don't walk, run. Go check it out.
Easy listen to, top to bottom, and like I said, I love an album where it makes me want to get on and rap on. Like I wish there was a little extra beat at the end. You know what I mean? Like I always found myself enjoying that when I could freestyle along to it or something. You know what I mean? But all the way around, it's amazing.
Yeah, and we applaud you and thank you for your 30 years of contribution to the community and the scene of hip hop. Man, it means a lot to fans like us that are able to listen and then connect with people that we look up to, and that they're great people like this, and we really enjoy it. Look forward to all that new shit that you got coming out too.
Fuck yeah.
I appreciate it, man. I want to say one thing real quick. I'm not even joking. I couldn't really see the skeleton over there in the corner, and I could just see like headphones, and I thought it was somebody that was in the room with you guys not saying anything until the homie backed up a little bit. I was like, oh, it's just a skeleton. But seriously, man, I appreciate you guys listening to the record and having me on the show, coming to the shows and just everything, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
Don't stop doing what you're doing, Gel Roc, because you have been doing some good stuff, man. It's really refreshing. Dude, before we go, what is a cloak to you, besides the actual attire, the cloak? I mean,
man.
What's a cloak?
I think, we've said it in so many different ways in different records, and we like to keep the ideology of the cloaks open for interpretation, but, we all wear cloaks.
Yeah.
We all have to wear a mask, essentially, a second identity, your shadow self, right? So, we are very aware of the subconscious.
All the disparage, keep the carriage, you know what I'm saying? 10 years of marriage, 20-year mirage, say la vie, bon voyage. Roll down the window, put out the garage, and toss my jewelry. It was all empty promises, full of promiscuity. This ain't a bit of love song, this is a eulogy. Pen to the pad to pen the opportunity. I'm past tomfoolery, there ain't no future for you and me, so there ain't no unity. It is what it is, and it's not what it used to be.